Hello, and welcome to episode 87 of the Compassion and Cucumbers podcast. I'm Christine.
And I'm Sam.
Hope everybody's doing good out there and that you all had a good weekend and a good Mother's Day.
We had a good weekend.
We did. What did we do this weekend?
Well, I mean, it wasn't really a whole lot about what we did. We didn't do a lot this weekend.
Which is why I'm like, what did we do this weekend?
Right. So we started out on Saturday. I had another round of auditions for our upcoming production of Guys and Dolls, which was very successful. And we've got the show cast. That's very exciting.
You got all the guys, you got all the dolls.
We do. We have both guys and dolls.
Oh,
so you got to love
good.
that. Yeah. And our evening was supposed to be taken up with vegan trivia night at the Vegan Center 716 in Tonawanda.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we had to postpone that event.
We did. We wanted more teams.
We did.
We had a couple of teams and we had a spectator or two, but you need more than a couple of teams.
Absolutely.
So I think that Mother's Day weekend maybe was a bad decision.
It probably wasn't ideal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're
going to... I'm sorry to interrupt you. It seemed like a lot of people said... after it was postponed, a lot of people were like, oh, yay, because I couldn't make it because I had plans for this or that. So
we're going to work with Marcy up at the Vegan Center to get that event rescheduled because we're still really excited about it.
Yeah, we're all raring to go.
Yeah, we are.
So hopefully we can find a night in June to do it.
Yeah, that would be super cool.
Yeah. But if June fails, we will have this trivia night before summer is over.
Oh, yes.
I mean, if we have to host it at our house.
You know, we could do that.
Yeah. We probably won't do that, but...
I don't know that I'd recommend it. We don't really have the space.
No. We could do it outdoor. That would be fun.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
The neighbors might not appreciate it.
Yeah. Anyway, hopefully we'll get that rescheduled and we'll pass that information out.
Not hopefully. We will get that rescheduled.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of when.
But I hope everybody else had a great weekend.
Yeah. And Sunday for us was kind of a chill day. We did our shift at the Humane Society on Sunday morning, which was great. There are some amazing cats there right now. I'm particularly fond of a kind of husky brown tabby by the name of Venture.
Yeah, he's really sweet.
He is just a snuggle muffin, and he loves everybody. You know how you come across those cats sometimes that just love you and don't love anybody else? No, Venture is an equal love cat.
Yeah.
Equal love for all.
If you pay attention to him, he loves you.
Yes, he does. And I'm also kind of obsessed with Waldo.
Yeah, Sam's like, oh, you've got to see Waldo. And I'm like, well,
where's Waldo?
Right?
Yes.
Of course, that's going to be my next question.
Well, yes. And I said that we needed to bring Waldo home so that we could play Where's Waldo every day.
Yeah. No, we don't need Waldo. Somebody will adopt Waldo.
But Waldo is so cute. He's kind of got a tuxedo patterning, but he's a ginger.
Yeah, he's cute.
So he's got tabby stripes, but he's got a white blaze on his chest, and he's just got this pointy little face. It's just so cute.
He's very mouthy.
He's very mouthy, and he keeps forgetting his tongue. And he's just way too cute. Yeah. And a talker.
He's adorable. They're all adorable.
They are. And there's some kittens there that are just absolutely to die for. And yeah, so if you are in the Dunkirk, Fredonia area and you are looking for a rescue animal, let me tell you, the Lakeshore Humane Society has it going on with the cats and the dogs.
Yeah, there's kitten season is in full swing. So.
It is. We also met a wonderful little pitty on our way out who was just adorable.
Yeah, she was sweet.
She was just beautiful. Dottie, I think her name was.
Yes, and very rambunctious.
Yes, but so cute and so friendly. Yeah, gotta love it.
Gotta love the rescue animals. And we'll talk a little bit more on that later in our main topic.
We most certainly will.
Yeah, but moving on to our noteworthy section.
Aren't you going to do the recipe first?
Oh, I skipped ahead.
You did.
What am I doing? Do you even podcast, bro?
You do podcast, bro.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes, we have a recipe this week. This is this week's listener recipe. This week we were given a recipe by Jenny Simic and her sister Jessie McMahon, and they are the owners and operators of Radical Foods. Well, they sent me a recipe for these biscuits that they have. They call them the Green Crab Braddock Bay biscuits. The Green Crab, I believe, is a restaurant.
Okay.
So they're based on this restaurant's biscuits. And Braddock Bay is it's a place, like a wildlife reserve on Lake Ontario, I believe.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I made these biscuits. I love biscuits.
Yeah.
Seriously.
It's hard not to love a good biscuit.
I'm a biscuit fiend.
Okay. I think that's a fair statement.
Yeah. So I made these biscuits. And let me just tell you, they did not disappoint.
No, they did not. So good.
They were fluffy. Oh, I got to tell you one thing they didn't put in their recipe, but if you ever make biscuits, here's a tip and a key to fluffy, thick biscuits.
Okay.
When you're cutting them out, don't do the twisting action. Just cut down and up.
Okay.
Because the twisting, what that does is kind of seals the edge.
Oh, sure. That makes sense.
Prevents them from
rising.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So they rose beautifully.
Nice.
And they were really delicious.
They were super delicious.
Yeah. There's nooch in them, nutritional yeast. And of course, plenty of vegan butter and chives.
Oh, the chives for me just kind of made it. I just absolutely loved that wonderful chivy undertone.
Chivy.
It was a chivy undertone. Yes, absolutely. It was just so beautiful. And Christine was brilliant enough to serve these with, we had breakfast for dinner.
Yeah, I did kind of like a brunch kind of situation.
So we did a breakfast for dinner. So we did some tofu scramble and some hash browns and some sliced avocado with these biscuits. And I, of course, because I love buildable food, had to take the biscuits and cut them in half and put a bit of tofu scramble and a little slice of avocado on top of my biscuit. Absolutely spectacular.
Yeah.
Yes.
And let me just tell you, the recipe says they make 6, and I think I got 8.
I think you did too.
Yeah. So bonus.
Yeah.
And we'll share a link to the recipe because they actually share this.
Oh, that's so sweet.
They share this very same recipe on their Radical Foods website under the recipe tab. So I will put a link in the show notes so you too can try these biscuits. And it's a very simple recipe. I was actually kind of blown away by the amount of flavor in them.
Yeah, me too.
Because it is very simple.
Yeah. And also quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was surprised by how quickly, once you got in the kitchen and were making the biscuits, I think I came in maybe 20 minutes later and there were biscuits out on the stove.
Yeah. But the secret ingredient, which is not really a secret at all, is their New York State sauce.
Oh, the sauce is in there?
Yeah.
Oh, no kidding. That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's what gives them that really amazing flavor.
Oh, that's super cool.
So yeah, I'll link to that in the show notes, and I highly recommend that you can get yourself some of that. I know there's a couple of markets in the Buffalo area that are selling them, their sauces, and get yourself some of their New York State sauce and make these biscuits.
Yeah, because they are incredible.
You won't regret it.
No, definitely not.
Okay, now we can move on.
Yes.
To our noteworthy section.
Now we can do some noteworthy stuff.
Yeah, where I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the fraud that's happening in the farm subsidies program. Just some of the fraud.
Well, there's no way we could cover it all.
No.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fraud going on in the farm subsidy program, which is why the AFA is lobbying in DC to make changes to protect our taxpayer dollars from fraud like this. There's a thing that they have, this comes from EWG, and there's a thing that's going on that they're calling fairway farmers. In their investigation, they found $1.9 million of farm subsidies money between 2018 and 2021 was being mailed to addresses that turned out to be golf courses.
Yes.
Not farms at all.
Yes. So there are 5 members of the exclusive 300-member Augusta National Golf Club who have gotten farm subsidies in the past. Under current law, they can receive farm subsidies, though they clearly do not live and probably don't work on a farm. So residents of golf course developments are receiving subsidies. The 5 individuals named in this article are William S. Morris III, founder and chair of Morris Communications. He took in just over $1 million in commodity subsidies. Leroy H. Simpkins Jr., founder and CEO of Simpkins Land Company, got $34,000 in commodity subsidies. Harold W. Anderson, former reporter, CEO, and publisher of Omaha World Herald, received over $185,000 in commodity and disaster subsidies. Mm-hmm. Stephen W. Brown Jr., former CEO of Brown Visvery Land Forestry Company, took in $13,000 in commodity and disaster subsidies. And William D. McKnight, president and senior project manager of McKnight Construction Company, collected $198,000 in commodity and disaster subsidies. EWG even found one golf course that received payments intended for farmers, not golfers.
Yeah, I think taxpayers would be furious to find out that their taxpayer dollars are going to subsidize owners of golf courses.
Yes, and in case you are wondering, the golf course that was identified by EWG is the Coral Creek Golf Course, which is on Florida's southwest coast.
Yeah, that's one of them.
Well, yeah. Yes. But we were specifically talking about the one golf course they found that had directly received subsidies intended for farmers.
Yeah, but it also says some subsidies included some older payouts to members of the Augusta Golf Club, where the Masters is held.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
The article goes on to say farm subsidy recipients must be actively engaged in farming, but the guidelines are vague, and many subsidy recipients do not live or work on farms. The Government Accountability Office recently found that roughly 1/4 of farm subsidy recipients do not contribute personal labor to farms.
EWG has found that almost 29,000 people who received farm subsidies between 1995 and 2021 live in major U.S. cities. And we found nearly 20,000 people who collected subsidies for 37 consecutive years, or every year between 1985 and 2021.
And by contrast, programs to combat hunger subject recipients to much stricter income and asset tests than farm subsidy programs. People living on low incomes remain eligible for just 12 months on average. For Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program benefits, or SNAP, more commonly known as food stamps. Rather than closing loopholes that allow city slickers to receive farm subsidies, the 2018 Farm Bill created new subsidy loopholes by allowing farmers' cousins, nieces, and nephews to take in payments regardless of whether they live or work on the farm. Now, I know that the AFA is actively working on that specific subject.
Yes.
That there is hundreds of thousands of dollars and even millions of dollars being paid out to family members of farm owners that have nothing to do with the farm itself.
That's right. And these payouts that we're talking about, they've actually increased in the last few years. Mm-hmm. Going back to these city slickers, from coast to coast, almost 29,000 people in the 50 largest U.S. cities had received a combined $555 million in farm subsidies as of 2021, and the payments soared during the Trump administration. The surge in Department of Agriculture farm subsidy recipients in these cities was mostly due to payouts from 2 Trump-era disaster programs, the Market Facilitation Program and the Coronavirus Food Assistance Program, an environmental working group analysis finds. In Chicago, Los Angeles, New York, and other major cities between 1995 and 2021, exactly 28,831 people got subsidies totaling just under $555 million.
Wow. And just to be clear, we're not against farm subsidies.
No.
There are cases where farmers should be subsidized, but there needs to be some equity.
Well, not only equity, but I think those subsidies should be based on not what is best for the animal agriculture industry, which is where the subsidies are currently focused most of the time, but on what would actually benefit the common good, the collective health of our society and the world.
Yeah.
I mean, no one's out there subsidizing Brussels sprouts.
Right. And it just seems like this is just another case of a bill being created and so many loopholes being put into it so that rich people can funnel more money their way.
Yes.
Absolutely. The same people that complain or probably complain about people receiving welfare or SNAP when that is going to people who really need it.
Yes.
Now, don't get me wrong. I'm sure there's fraud in that department too.
Absolutely.
But the majority of people that are accepting welfare or any kind of governmental benefits are living so far below the poverty level.
Yeah.
And it's a full-time job just trying to receive those benefits. Right. So,
and then it also has to be questioned, why are, for example, the meat and dairy industry being so heavily subsidized when they're creating a surplus of product that is then being disposed of? Millions, if not billions of gallons of milk thrown away every year. Surplus cheese, surplus meat, all of it being thrown away. And for what purpose?
Yeah, it's like a big pyramid scheme.
It really is. Yeah. So again, we're not necessarily against farm subsidies in general. We're certainly, yes, we want to support industries that are contributing to the common good. But I really do not believe that the meat and dairy industries are among those. And certainly those who are living on golf courses should not be receiving farm.
You wouldn't think that they should be receiving farm subsidies.
No. So, this is another of those things that if this matters to you, if you think this is an issue that needs to be addressed, this is yet another reason to go join that AFA voter hub and support the Agriculture Fairness Alliance in their quest to have some influence on the upcoming farm bill.
Absolutely. So, anything else you want to say about this Fairway Farmers?
No, not about the Fairway Farmers in particular, but we will get back to the subsidy idea when I get to this week's 72 Reasons to be Vegan.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll look forward to that.
Cool.
So let's move on to our main topic. Our main topic this week is the 2019 film produced by Joaquin Phoenix, The Animal People.
The thing that I remember most distinctly is an FBI agent holding a gun in my face.
We're 6 activists who are indicted under federal terrorism laws.
U.S. attorneys called it a campaign of terrorism.
We didn't break anything. We didn't burn anything. We didn't beat anyone. We didn't even so much as trespass. Our crime is doing exactly what I'm doing right now, speaking.
Any threat to cause a loss of profit to a corporation is now considered an act of terrorism.
We are committed to working with our partners to disrupt and dismantle these movements, to protect our fellow citizens, and to bring to justice those who disrupt business and inflict serious economic damage.
The largest accounting firm in the world just backed up within 24 hours.
This wasn't about solving a crime. This was about sending a message that you better shut up.
The Animal People tells the story of 6 advocates determined to expose the world's largest animal testing lab and an industry just as determined to stop them.
The group targeted Huntingdon Life Sciences, which at the end of the documentary we discovered eventually merged with Envigo to create a brand new greenwashed version of itself. But the group that targeted Huntingdon was called SHAC, meaning Stop Huntingdon Animal Cruelty. It used public protests and the then fledgling internet to lead an open campaign against Huntingdon and successfully halted much of its financial support. But the protests led to a chain of events that would involve the FBI, Congress, surveillance, wiretaps, rewritten laws, and the first ever indictments of animal advocates for domestic terrorism.
Yeah, the SHAC case was groundbreaking in the fact that they did write laws specifically to be able to prosecute animal rights protesters as domestic terrorists.
Yes. And, several higher ups in the FBI at the time were actually quite open about saying, yes, we're going to get as creative as we can to charge these people with things.
Yeah, if we can't find a law to charge them with, we'll make new ones.
That's right.
That's basically what they did.
Yes.
Yeah, so what did you think of this film?
I absolutely loved this film. I thought it was beautifully done. I really appreciated that all 6 of the activists charged and convicted in this case were an active part of the film. I think having that perspective was really, really important.
Yeah.
Made it far more personal than just a report on it. So having a third party kind of report, I think would have been less effective. There were parts of the film that I very literally could not watch. And of course, these were scenes of abuse and mutilation of animals within Huntington's life science facilities. And I just couldn't do it.
Specifically, they were, air quote, testing on beagles and monkeys. Looked like rhesus monkeys, the small monkeys.
Rabbits.
Yeah.
There were a few moments with cats, actually.
Yeah.
And just these animals being thrown into cages, beaten, held down as they're screaming and crying.
Yeah,
and
no anesthesia.
No anesthesia. Being cut open without anesthesia or anything. It was just horrific.
Yeah, terrifying. It was like hell.
Yes, it was. Like I actually had to curl myself up on the couch and cover my head with a blanket and cover my ears. Like I couldn't do it.
Yeah. So warning, there are a few scenes like that, but it's not throughout the entire film.
No, there are two kind of sections of the film that include that kind of footage. The rest of the film is very much watchable and digestible.
Yeah, and I think that it was really necessary to include that footage.
It was.
Especially since they weren't, when they went to trial, they were not allowed to even talk about what was going on behind the doors of these research facilities.
Right. And the reason they weren't allowed to talk about what happens at these types of facilities is that it might bias or influence the jury. If you ask me, that's ridiculous because it ensures that one side of the argument is being heard and the other side of the argument is not.
Right. So what happened to the balanced scales of justice?
That's right. Apparently they've gone completely out the window.
Yeah.
Yes. And so the way that their actions were characterized was essentially those of, a bunch of delinquent kids causing problems and inciting violence. And I think you would agree when I say that is a gross mischaracterization of what actually happened.
Yeah.
And not only that, but the 6 activists who were charged and tried and convicted were actually not directly involved with any of the actions.
No, they maintained a website and started SHAC and didn't even really direct campaigns. They just supported anybody who wrote into them saying what they were going to do.
Right.
They just said, we support you 100%. They didn't give them, the tools or anything. They simply created a website to put all the information out there, and then they were the ones that were charged with domestic terrorism.
Yes, and went to prison for anywhere from, in the best case scenario, 1 year to, I think the 6 years was the longest sentence.
Yeah.
And
it was originally 7 individuals, the SHAC 7, that were charged. It was Kevin Kajonas, who also goes by Kevin Jonas, who was the former president of Stop Huntingdon Animal Cruelty. It was Lauren Gazzola, Jacob Conroy, who you might know as Jake Conroy, or also is known as the Cranky Vegan, Joshua Harper, Andrew Stepanian, Darius Fulmer, and John McGee. McGee was later dropped from the case, and they were charged with conspiracy to violate the Animal Enterprise Terrorism Act, which is the law that they wrote specifically to charge these people.
Yes.
And passed it like in the middle of the night.
with only 5 lawmakers in the room. That's justice for you. That's our lawmaking system.
Yeah. In the first application of the 1992 statute, Jonas, Gazzola, Conroy, and Harper were charged with conspiracy to harass using a telecommunications device, discussing black faxes, while Jones, Gazzola, Conroy, and SHAC USA were charged with stalking via the internet. The defense of the SHAC 7 rested largely on the 1969 case Brandenburg versus Ohio, in which the Supreme Court of the United States ruled that political speech is legal unless it can be shown that a defendant has told specific individuals to commit specific imminent acts of violence, which they did not do.
No. And during the trial, as we mentioned before, the defendants were prohibited from providing evidence of animal cruelty taking place at Huntingdon Life Sciences testing laboratories.
Yeah. Now, I think this film was really well done.
Yeah.
And I also think that this is the kind of film that really kind of charges people, and empowers people. Like, wow, yeah, this is terrible. I think the point they were getting at is our laws really don't exist.
Right.
That it's an illusion. That the First Amendment is an illusion. Because, sure, we have a First Amendment, but then when you try to
avail yourself of that First Amendment,
they find ways around it.
Yeah, there are conditions put upon it.
Yeah.
Yes. And the Animal Enterprise Terrorism Act certainly does exactly that. That's the same law that makes it illegal to go into animal agriculture enterprises and take footage, to be in those places investigating. It's where hamburger laws come from. Yeah. It's where you can't sue an entity for the harm that their product has caused you, even though that harm was caused knowingly. Yeah, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
It's just crazy that things like this exist.
Now, Kevin Jonas, after he served his prison term, has since started an organization that helps to free animals, specifically beagles, that are used in these research facilities. And he is getting laws passed that these animals, once the facility is done doing their experimentation on them, must be available for adoption.
Which I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, these laws don't curtail the experimentation to begin with.
At all, no. And I'm sure a lot of them don't survive.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, if you had seen, and if you see this movie, you will see some of the things that are done to these animals. And I think what struck me the most is, as vegans, we talk a lot about animal agriculture and the pain and suffering that farmed animals are put through. And I think maybe we don't focus often enough on the animals who are killed, tortured, and experimented upon in research facilities.
In the name of research.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I would really, this is something that I know I will be looking into more now.
Yeah.
Even though I couldn't watch the footage, I feel like I need to know more about this. And so it's going on my list of more research is required. But also it just makes me want to underline to all of the vegans, or even the conscientious non-vegans out there, when you're talking about purchasing your cosmetics, your toiletries, your day in, day out things that you use, please look for brands that are cruelty-free, do not test on animals, do not contain animal ingredients. Because every time you purchase items that do contain animal ingredients or are produced through animal testing, you're supporting these labs.
Yeah.
And you're supporting the pain and suffering that these animals are put through.
Yeah. Yeah, it's important to know what you're buying.
Absolutely.
And that you're not contributing to any of that, because we just watched the film before we were recording because we wanted it fresh.
Yes.
And
it most certainly is.
I'm feeling a little shell-shocked, frankly.
Yeah.
I'm glad we watched it, and I've read a lot about, vivisection and these research facilities, but until you see firsthand what's actually going on in these places, it is literally like a hell.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yes.
What some humans are capable of.
Yeah.
You know? Oy vey.
Yeah. So I would highly recommend this film for anybody who is interested in seeing how our legal system works and how it handles acts of political activism.
PETA did an article about this film. It's on their website, and I thought it was nice. I don't know. That's not even the right word. I thought it was great that they ended the article with a Margaret Mead quote.
I thought you were just about to say that you were glad they ended the article with a margarita.
I could use a margarita.
I don't know why that popped into my head, but PETA was ending this article with a margarita, and I was like, go PETA.
No. PETA ended the article with a quote from Margaret Mead, and the quote is, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world."
Because it's the only thing that ever has.
Yeah, I mean, got to keep trying.
That's right.
Got to keep trying. So again, the film is The Animal People, and it is available to rent on YouTube, on Amazon. I believe it's on Apple TV. I highly recommend that you go drop the $2 or $3 that it costs to rent this film and watch it.
And of course, there will be a link in the show notes.
Yeah, and follow the work of the people that were involved in this case, because they're all still very active in the animal advocacy movement. And highly recommend that you follow Jake Conroy on his YouTube channel, because he's always talking about how to be more effective in pressure campaigns, because part of SHAC's mission was they kind of like fine-tuned pressure campaigning.
Yeah.
So what they do is they found this research facility, right, which is all over the world. They have facilities all over the world. But instead of directly going to that research facility, they found out who takes out their garbage, who picks up their trash,
who finances them, who their insurance company is, and put pressure on those companies to sever ties with the lab itself. And it's really quite an ingenious and very effective tactic.
Yeah, so they're kind of like experts in pressure campaigning. If you're interested in that kind of activism, definitely check out Jake's channel, because he talks about that a lot, pressure campaigning, and he puts forward other organizations that are having successful pressure campaigns and how they're doing it. Because, I mean, even though they technically failed in what they were trying to do, that laboratory, as Sam said, has since rebranded, and they're still doing what they do.
They are still doing what they do.
Yeah. It still puts it in the forefront.
Absolutely.
It was in the news.
Yes. And at the time, they got a number of their financial backers to pull out. They got their insurance company to pull out. They got their maintenance staff to stop working with them.
Yeah.
So it really was effective.
Yeah.
It just didn't address the fact that, number one, the UK government stepped in to insure the company and once they lost their private insurance. And it didn't cover the fact that, this is such a wealthy organization that they were going to be able to take a step back, reorganize, rebrand, and just carry on with business as usual.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say that the campaign was entirely failed. It's just that it didn't take those almost inevitabilities into consideration.
It definitely should be on your list of much-see vegan and animal activism films.
Yeah, I will put it up on the website.
And with that, you want to move on to our 72 Reasons to be Vegan?
Sure thing. So this week's Reason to be Vegan, from Gene Stone and Kathy Freston's lovely book, 72 Reasons to be Vegan, Why Plant-Based, Why Now, is number 60. Now, I like to tie these into either our main topic or something else in the episode. And unfortunately, one thing that this wonderful book does not address is animal testing. It focuses very much so on animal cruelty in the animal agriculture industry. It focuses on health. It focuses on disease prevention, those kinds of things, but it doesn't really address animal testing.
Okay.
So I went back to the subsidies conversation, and that brings me to reason number 60, the meat business costs you money. I'd love to go vegan, but it's just too expensive. We've heard this old chestnut more times than we can count. Somehow, over the years, we've been indoctrinated with the fallacy that plant-based food is prohibitively expensive. As we saw on page 127, eating plant-based is very budget-friendly, as long as you know how to shop. But it is also true that, at least at the cash register, meat is cheap, too. You can get chunks of beef or a chicken breast for not much more than a few bucks per pound. Let's start by reminding ourselves what goes into getting meat into grocery stores. First, you feed a cow 20 to 30 pounds of grain, typically alfalfa, soy, and corn, per day. You give her lots of water, as much as 20 gallons per day. Remember, 2.2 pounds of beef requires 55 pounds of food and almost 4,000 gallons of water. Raising and slaughtering some 70 billion land animals each year worldwide requires so many resources that more than a quarter of the Earth's terrestrial surface is used for livestock grazing, while a third of all arable land is used by livestock feed crop cultivation, according to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization. And yet meat is very cheap. How is such an inefficient source of food so affordable for consumers? Quite simply, because of you. First, there's the marketing dollars. Remember, beef, it's what's for dinner. Pork, the other white meat. And got milk? These massive marketing campaigns were spearheaded by the federal government during the 90s to get more people to eat meat, dairy, and eggs. Thanks to Congress, the industry is actually required to set aside a portion of their sales into so-called checkoff programs, which are used to research and market those products. If the government forced e-cigarette companies to run vaping ads on TV targeted toward kids, the public would be outraged. Why aren't we outraged that our elected representatives are rubber stamping more than $500 million worth of advertisements for products that are just as addicting and unhealthy as smoking? That's only the start. Not only do government-mandated ads compel people to buy more meat, dairy, and eggs, taxpayers are subsidizing these foods to the tune of $38 billion per year. You probably don't even notice that every 5 to 7 years, Congress passes a farm bill. It barely makes the news, since it's one of the few things Republicans and Democrats tend to agree on. The 2018 Farm Bill passed 386 to 47 in the House and 87 to 13 in the Senate. How bad could something with such a bland name be? Very bad. While parts of the bill are important, such as funding food stamps for struggling Americans, most of it amounts to a windfall for billion-dollar agriculture companies. The original farm bills were passed during the Great Depression to help struggling farmers by authorizing the government to purchase excess supplies of crops. It's a different story nowadays. Between 1995 and 2009, taxpayers doled out more than $160 billion in subsidies, but 2/3 of American farmers received nothing. The funds mostly went to big corporate players, with 1/5 of recipients grabbing 9/10 of the cash, explains lawyer David Simon in his book, Meatonomics. And where does most of that money go? Growing cheap crops meant solely for farming animals. In fact, of the 300 million acres of food planted in the United States, half are corn and soy. Fruits and vegetables meant for humans are grown on a mere 14 million acres. Altogether, Simon calculates that ranchers sell their cows for as much as $90 less than they would cost to rear without taxpayer subsidies, while pigs sell for $8 less. If the subsidies were to go away, meat and dairy would cost a lot more, and consumers would buy a lot less. It gets worse. In 2019, NPR reported that the United States was sitting on a 1.4 billion pound cheese surplus. The glut, which at 900,000 cubic yards is the largest in U.S. history, means that there is enough cheese sitting in cold storage to wrap around the U.S. Capitol. Even though Americans are consuming less cheese and drinking less milk than they used to, taxpayer subsidies continue to incentivize dairy companies to pump out as much product as possible. Yes, the federal government publicly recommends that half your plate be filled with fruits and vegetables, but it's quietly making sure that it's instead packed with beef, chicken, eggs, and processed junk food. Or, as Ferd Hefner, the former policy director for the National Sustainable Agriculture Coalition, explained, we've locked up food production with a policy that says, thou shalt not grow fruit and vegetables.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
Definitely a good reason to be vegan.
Absolutely.
When you consider that they're saying that Social Security is going broke, but what did you say? $35 billion?
$38 billion.
$38 billion in the last farm bill. God only knows what this farm bill will have in it. Probably $48 billion.
It's possible.
Yeah.
But our friends at the AFA, they're in Washington doing their thing, doing everything they can to make sure that does not happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes me mad.
I know.
It makes me so darn mad.
How could it not make you mad?
I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore.
All right then. And what are you going to do about it?
I'm going to move on to
nice.
Our listener. And I'm going to move on to our listener shout out. Here's our listener shout out.
Just want to give a shout out to all my fans watching. I love you guys. I love you.
All right. This week's listener shout out goes to Allison Jones. Allison is the founder of Lake Erie Vegan. She is a driving force in the Northwest Pennsylvania vegan community, organizing many vegan events and promoting veganism in the Erie, PA area. Thanks for listening, Allison. Contact us with your t-shirt size and address so we can send you a swag bag. You can do that by emailing us at compassionandcucumbers@gmail.com or DMing Christine on Instagram. And we really hope that we're going to get to some of those Lake Erie vegan events soon.
Yeah, maybe we will. I mean, geez. But thanks for listening, Allison. And thank you for everything that you do in Pennsylvania for the vegan community.
Absolutely.
Moving on to housekeeping. Hey, we want to try your favorite vegan recipes. So send them off. We have this segment now called Listener Recipes.
You heard it today.
Yeah. And you can email or DM us your favorite vegan meals that you love to make. They don't have to be original recipes. They can be recipes that you found online or just some things that you consider favorites that you make in your kitchen often and you think that we should try. So send them off. Email them or DM them to us.
That's right, because we're up for anything.
We will eat anything as long as it's vegan.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. If you like, you can support our Food Not Bombs fundraiser through our Buy Me a Coffee page. As you know, we are running a fundraiser for the Buffalo chapter of Food Not Bombs. They are a fantastic organization that provides vegan meals to those suffering from food insecurity. If you would like to support this campaign, you can do so by heading to our Buy Me a Coffee site at buymeacoffee.com/cucumbers.
Yeah, and if you're not aware, that is on the World Wide Web.
When are you going to give this up?
I don't know why it just makes me laugh.
See, you make fun of the W's, you lose the W's, now you want them back?
I miss the W's.
Well, it's your own damn fault.
Yeah, I know. I should have never said anything.
See what you get?
Yeah. Follow Sam's Etsy site. There's W's in that too.
There are.
It's Cucumber Craftworks. Take a look at her she's got beautiful hand knit scarves and all kinds of hand knit stuff. Handmade jewelry and bead art, and it's all vegan and it's all made with love.
Yes, and now that the academic term is coming to a close very rapidly, Christine and I actually have some time blocked out tomorrow to do some photography of some of the new items that I'm going to be putting up on the site. So I'm hoping that we'll have a couple new lines of stuff up, maybe even tomorrow.
Yeah, watch for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The site, again, is Compassion. No, it's not.
No, it's really not.
Cucumber Craftworks.
Yes, and you can find that through Etsy. So etsy.com/store/Cucumber Craftworks.
Okay.
All right. Of course, we want to hear from you, so go ahead and email or DM us show ideas, cookbook recommendations, recipes you love, or subjects you'd like us to touch on.
Yeah, I'm never quite sure if there's things that you want us to be talking about that we're not talking about. So if there is anything that you think that we should be talking about that we're not,
let us know.
Yeah, please let us know. You can subscribe to our YouTube. I'm working on cooking videos, apparently. Don't forget to click the little bell so that you're notified when I put a new video out. And subscribe.
Absolutely. Yeah, I imagine summer will be a good time for cooking videos.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe I could do some grilling videos. That'd be fun, right?
That would be super fun.
Yeah.
You know, and you have me around to help with the camera work. So, yeah, we can do that. Absolutely. Would you like to get a listener shout out?
I would. Oh.
Really?
Oh, I can't.
No? Does that defeat the purpose of the listener shout out?
I think I should probably... It
not
might be
shout yourself out?
It could be a conflict of
interest.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if it wouldn't be a conflict of interest for you to get a shout out and you would like one, go ahead and send us a DM or email letting us know you listen to the show and tell us a little bit about yourself. We would love to shout you out.
We would. And you can join our Patreon. We have all of the recipes that we talk about from our vegan kitchen series up there for our patrons, and we'll be adding some bonus episodes. The link is always in the show notes if you want to join our community over there on Patreon.
You can leave us a review on your podcast app if it allows, and of course, you know those sparkly things that Christine loves, those lovely stars. She wants 5 of them.
I do.
She really does. If your podcast...
I'm sorry to interrupt, but only if you think we deserve them.
So you're not trying to strong arm people or anything?
I'm not demanding 5 stars. If you think 4 is all we're good for, then 4 is good.
In other words, she'll take what she can get.
Give us what you think we deserve.
There you go. Now, if you can't leave a review on your podcast app, just share the show with a friend or a family member that you think would enjoy what we do. Also, feel free to share our social media posts. It's the easiest way to support us or any content creator, and it costs you nothing at all.
Yeah, and finally, as always, join the AFA Vegan Voter Hub and give to them monetarily if you can. The Agriculture Fairness Alliance is lobbying on our behalf so that our vegan voices are heard. If you want to make real change in the upcoming Farm Bill, join the Vegan Voter Hub. Do it. Do it.
And it looks like that brings us to our brand new sign-off, so it's time for us to say, where cukes and compassion are always the fashion on the podcast.
Thanks, James. Have a great week, everybody. We will talk to you next Tuesday.
We love you.
Bye-bye.
The end.
Do you want to support the Compassion and Cucumbers podcast? Well, you can do that by joining our Patreon page. We have 3 different levels of support, and all 3 come with their own special bonuses. Hey, you can support the podcast and get yourself some really cool merch. All the links and deets are in the show notes. We'll catch you next week on the next episode of Compassion and Cucumbers.